I'm glad that you come on a show that you think rots people's brains, because I mean, why would you do that? I don't get it.
It's a fair question, to be honest.
Yeah, well, why don't you just leave?
Piers Morgan finally snapped on one of his guests, and I think he's 100% justified. Plus, TMZ's foray into political reporting is already getting messy, and a Fox News host goes viral for a pretty strange rant about women. All this and so much more is coming up on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, our daily show where we take on the craziest stories from across the internet and social media, all from an independent political perspective. Guys, up first, we're going to check in with Piers Morgan, the star and host of Piers Morgan Uncensored. He is, of course, the controversial British journalist and TV personality who hosts raucous debates and panels he's even actually embraced this. I'm not even insulting him by saying this. He calls it the Jerry Springer of TV, and it really is. I mean, he has some insightful debates and interviews some experts and stars and politicians, but then he also has kind of like just WWE style brawls between panelists where they argue. But then there's this frustrating thing that keeps happening where people like Ben Shapiro did this, and I talked about it, who went on his show a bunch of times and kind of were happy to do it when it suited their narrative and when it suited him, but then at some point decided they were too good for it or it was no longer okay or whatever, then kind of looked down on it. And this happened recently in an interview, a panel that he was doing between an Israeli kind of peace activist, I guess, and former politician, and then Josh Hammer, who is a conservative journalist and lawyer and very much a pro-Israel kind of hardliner. Anyway, they were having this debate, and then Piers ended up kind of snapping at Josh, and I thought it was 100% justified because he basically insulted the show while being on the show, acting like he was too good for it, even though Josh, during other parts, and I didn't clip this part, he's like on the show and he's like promoting himself. He's like, I talk about this on my podcast, The Josh Hammer Show. And he's like, and he has his book propped up, like to buy his book. And yet then he insults Piers and insults Piers Morgan Uncensored, the show, pretty explicitly. And it's like, well, hang on. You're so here for the criticism and the shade of it, and yet you're so happy to come on it when it suits you to promote yourself and your products. So Piers called him out, and without further ado, let's take a look at that.
I care about team civilization defeating team barbarism. That is the that is the moral dichotomy of the 21st century. It's been the moral dichotomy of black versus light, of good versus evil for millennia there. I know that the moral obfuscation on this show on a day-in-day basis tends to rot brains and minds, make people think
that
is the only thing that motivates me on a day.
Excellent question, Piers. And I'll just pause on this and I'll say that, listen, I am not an expert on geopolitics, and I hardly think that I have all the answers to this stuff, but international conflicts and these problems and wars and all of this is a little more complicated than just the good guys versus the bad guys. And it's a little more complicated than just civilization versus evil. Like, if you actually think that all of these conflicts with hundreds of years of history and all sorts of atrocities on different camps from so many disputed facts and all these things and all these people, very learned, educated people that come out on either side of them, if you really think it's all as simple as good guys versus bad guys, I think you're not being intellectually honest. And to then say that, because Piers actually hosts these debates and actually has people on this platform to argue about it and discuss this stuff, it definitely gets juvenile and they start screaming at each other and calling each other names. And I find that unfortunate. But to say that it's brain rotting, then, like Piers says, why are you here? You're happy to come join in on the brain rot to promote your book and your podcast. That's not exactly taking an upstanding moral stance there, Josh. And then two, is it more brain rotting to hear people argue vociferously and kind of behave in immature ways with different perspectives, or to do what most media platforms do and literally just only have one side of the argument agreeing with each other? To me, that's more brain rotting, actually. And that's much more prevalent in almost all forms of media. There are very, very few places in mainstream media where people with diametrically opposed worldviews regularly are on the same show arguing with each other, especially about these kind of sensitive foreign affairs topics like Israel and like Iran. And I think Piers deserves credit. I mean, obviously, you could criticize certain things he's done or certain things that are like a little ridiculous that he does and he lets it get out of control. But I appreciate the spirit of that. And I just can't believe the audacity of these people to go on there to promote themselves while sneering down on it. Like, are you too good for it or are you not too good for it? Because you want the best of both worlds here. And I do have a problem with that. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button if you haven't yet. And we're going to keep going here. It actually gets a little spicier between the two of them. But first, I just wanted to pause and say, if you're able to, maybe do consider becoming a channel member to support my content and my work. You'll unlock early access to full-length ad-free episodes of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. But more than anything, it's just a way to support my content. I call out the far left and the far right and give an independent perspective on these topics. And frankly, that's not the most lucrative business model. You actually make a lot more money if you just pander to Team Red or Team Blue. So it does help when I get support from viewers like you, but no worries if you're not able to. I know times are tough, but if you are, feel free to hit the join button or the link in the description. And without further ado, let's get back into the tea, into the drama, because unlike Josh, I am not going to pretend that I'm too good for it or above it. I'm here for it, actually. Let's watch.
Why are you here?
To present the team
You're now doing the Ben Shapiro playbook, you know.
Why are you here? To promote my book and my podcast, actually, is the honest answer.
Playbook, you know, anyone that criticizes the Israeli government must be anti-Semitic, must be rotting brains. This is Jerry Springer. This is a circus.
I'll pause here and push back on Piers a little bit. Josh didn't call him anti-Semitic. And that is a problem where people shut down conversations with kind of spurious accusations of anti-Semitism, but he hasn't done that yet. And so I think leaping to that was not fair.
I've got you on to debate this.
I didn't call you anti-Semitic.
No, but it's coming because it's the Ben Shapiro playbook. That any
it is
criticism...
not the Ben Shapiro has not called you anti-Semitic God. Ben Shapiro has called you dumb and stupid, or some variation thereof. Okay, I mean, like he has called your show Jerry Springer. He has not called you anti-Semitic. He has not done that because he has no reason. I have no reason for thinking that you are.
Good. Well, I'm glad we can cross that bridge. I'm glad that you come on a show that you think rots people's brains because I mean, why would you do that? I don't get it.
It's a fair question, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, why don't you just leave?
I could, but I'm here. I'm here to
well, why
engage.
Don't you? What are you doing here? If you think it rots your brain, why would you risk rotting your brain?
Every so often you have a guest who makes a modicum of sense, and I thought this would be a good opportunity.
You mean someone that agrees with you and doesn't want to criticize the Israeli government? I get it.
Wow. I love the level of messy that Piers Morgan is willing to be. He really gives 0 Fs, and he will just stop. He'll make it awkward. He does not care. And you know what? Valid. Because why are you here promoting your book and your podcast, but you're also going to say it's a brain-rotting show and it's beneath you? It's like, then leave. And he doesn't want to leave because he still wants to get his viral clip and his viral moment, and he wants the attention. And I am not judging that. I am certainly not above that. But the audacity of these egomaniac media professionals to simultaneously look down on like, oh, those are the low-class media people, but also I'm going to hop on there real quick to promote myself. It's like, if you're really so holier than thou, if you're really such a highbrow intellectual who only ever does the most serious of media. Now, of course, he does like all sorts of right-wing media that's deeply unserious and far more brain-rotting than Piers Morgan. But, right, it then actually live by it, right? And then to say, like, when he calls you on it and say, then leave. I would have respected Josh more if he actually logged off, but he didn't. And I thought that was revealing. It's like people really are. When you're in this business for a long enough time, you realize how addicted people are to the camera. And I'm a hypocrite. Like I do as well. Then I'm not out here pretending that I'm better than it. That really grinds my gears. I don't know about y'all. And Piers didn't let it go either. He really has no chill. And that's part of why I like Piers. Like, there's just something. He is a showman, and he knows how to do it, to make the moment, to make the clip, to do his big one. And even at the end of this segment, he had another guest on after, but at the end of this segment, he didn't let it go either. Here's that second clip from the Piers interview. Let's watch.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. I appreciate you both coming on. I hope your brain has survived the rotting that it's experienced. Josh Hammer, I guess we'll have to see. Fears are growing amongst my audience for your rotten brain, but I have every confidence that you'll be even sharper for your experience on Uncensored. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Piers.
Oh my gosh. Listen, he called you out. You wanted to say your lines and call out the show and act like you were above it all, and he really, I would have felt very embarrassed in that moment as Josh Hammer to just have my hypocrisy so blatantly highlighted like that. And then to have Piers not let it go. I love it. Like, not to just move on after they had their first moment, but to bring it back to that. Listen, is it petty? Yes. Do I relate to it on a spiritual level? Also, yes. And I think it's totally fair. And I'll be curious if Josh is invited back or if he's willing to come back on the show or not. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But personally, listen, I'm all about debates. I'm all about panels. But I think you have to show, when you are a guest on someone else's platform, you have to show at least a modicum of respect to the host and not like publicly trash them on their own show and act like you're holier than thou and better than it. Or to me, it's you're never invited back, and I'm not going to help you sell your book and promote your podcast while you also act like my show is social arsenic and toxic poison to the political discourse, but you're happy to profit off of it and participate in it when it suits you. That's like deeply inconsistent and hypocritical to me. And I totally understand why Piers decided to stand on business and call it out. I thought he was 100% justified here. But you guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet, and do consider becoming a channel member to support my work. Now we're going to check in on TMZ, which you will know is not a regular topic of discussion, even though we cover the media on this podcast, because we mostly focus on like political media. And TMZ, at least historically, doesn't do much politics. They mostly focus on like celebrity drama and entertainment stuff. And frankly, I just don't care about a lot of that. Like, it's just not really my thing. Sometimes it intersects with like culture war debates or politics in a way that interests me. But just generally speaking, this is not really my lane or my area of expertise. So I don't usually pay a lot of attention to TMZ, except when like they get a scoop or something that is relevant. But they're now entering a foray into, or they're now trying, and they're making a foray into political reporting and using their kind of borderline stalking skills to stalk the government instead of random B-list celebrities. And I like the idea in principle, but I'm not so sure I like how it's working out in practice. So we're going to go through this. But first, here's the announcement from TMZ. They said, as TSA officers are selling their blood to keep a roof over their heads, members of Congress are packing their bags for a 2-week vacation, and we want the pics. Our DMs are open. See them on vacay. Send us the pics, and we'll take a look. And then they posted this video. Listen to this.
I want to talk to everybody in our audience right now that if anybody goes to Disney World with their family for spring break, or goes to a beach somewhere or anywhere on vacation, and you see one of the 535 members of Congress, take a picture and send it to us at TMZ. We will post that picture on our website, on our social media, and we will put it on our television shows. We want to show what they are doing at your expense. And we want everybody to hear that. And we are waiting for those pictures.
Now, my friend Hannah Cox, who's a political commentator, she wrote the caption here that I agreed with. Paparazzi stalking lawmakers ruining the country is much better than paparazzi stalking celebrities minding their business. We've been utilizing this profession incorrectly. And that's why I like this idea in theory, is that like our public servants, and I hate to even call them that because that's such a flattering term actually, but in this country, and this applies to Democrats and Republicans, so many of them are so hideously corrupt and incompetent and low IQ, and they just blatantly don't do their jobs. They just posture for cameras and are just trying to go viral or get attention. And so many of them are like doing shady things when it comes to their stock trades or their business dealings or other things. And I feel like we have probably become too numb to it and don't give it the energy that it deserves. And frankly, if they want to be in a position of power over other people and trusted with these positions of authority in our society, I think it's totally fair to scrutinize them heavily and demand to know what's going on with them. However, TMZ's experiment here is not going amazing with some of the commentary and posts that they're doing. So they're like very much hyper scrutinizing these lawmakers who have left town because the House was out of session. I think it actually resumes today, potentially. But anyway, this past week, it's been out of session because the leadership decides that. So like Mike Johnson, John Thune, the Republicans, they put Congress out of session. And so a lot of these lawmakers left. And then because of the ongoing partial government shutdown that has TSA defunded or they're not getting paid and other parts of DHS are partially defunded, it's like they're scrutinizing their travel. And I do agree that it's a bad look to be going on like a luxurious vacation while TSA officers aren't getting paid or what have you. But also, to some extent, what are these Congress members supposed to do? So, for example, there's this Jared Moskowitz, who's a Democratic congressman, and TMZ posted this about him. Exclusive: Congressman timekeeper seen at Suns basketball game amid the shutdown. Then I have a photo of him at a basketball court in his home district where his son is playing a basketball game. And this has 5 million views. And I'm like, what's the, like, yes? And what's the there? What is he doing wrong? Why are we harassing this random congressman for, they closed down Congress. It's not in session. They're not doing business. So he went back to his district and is spending time with his family and is volunteering to help out his son's basketball team. I'm just not sure why that's newsworthy, right? Like, it'd be one thing if, I don't know, he's on a 5-star vacation to Fiji and is on the beach, you know, sipping Mai Tais and living in luxury while TSA workers are going unpaid. But it's like, what is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to just stay in Washington, D.C., away from his family in solidarity and like sit on a bench outside the closed halls of Congress and be like, we should be open and trying to fund the government right now? That's why I said at the time, I was like, I really do not understand what angle they're taking with this or going with this. It's a little different. Like, there's the story about Lindsey Graham, the Republican senator who was spotted at Disney. And I'm like, interesting choice, man. As a single adult man, go a little solo trip to Disney. I guess whatever, victimless crime, but a little bit strange. And even that is slightly more newsworthy to me, but I really don't understand the news value here, like, at all. And the TMZ guys even actually had him on their show to kind of discuss this with him. And I don't know, I thought he came out looking pretty good from this exchange. Let's watch that clip.
We've been getting all these photos, and yours, certainly folks would say, look, you're just spending time with your family. But the reality is that there are these government workers out there, Congressman, who are, would love to be spending time with their families, but they've got to be working extra hard. Some of them are not being paid, and we've heard their stories of how they're struggling through this shutdown, and people are outraged that you guys are on break for 2 weeks.
But my question is, like, he's not the one that decided to put the House in recess. Random rank and file members, that's not up to them. That's a leadership decision. So again, I come back to, like, what is he supposed to do? And that's why I like it in theory, TMZ using its unique skill set, right, to hold the government accountable. I mean, there is a reason that political reporters exist as like a separate genre of reporters, because it's helpful if you understand how these things work, Anyway, let's watch his response.
I say they're right. I say, and the American people are right. while I was at the park, I had Democrats and Republicans come up to me, and independents, by the way.
Side note, why do people do this on Zoom or whatever? Like they blur their background like that? To me, that looks so corny.
All say it's unacceptable. Why are you guys on break? It's great that you're here, Jared. You're spending time with your family. You're doing what you should be doing. But the fact that people are waiting 3 or 4 hours in line and you guys are on break is unacceptable. It's why many members of Congress have asked the speaker both this time and the break we had just 2 weeks ago. We had a 1-week break 2 weeks ago in the middle of the shutdown. That also should be canceled. And I think it's both parties' fault because both parties right now don't want to make a deal with each other. As far as sending us home, that's Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune. They could have kept us there. Remember, the Senate passed a bill in the middle of the night. Not a single senator was there. They U-seated, which is a rare thing to do in the middle of the night. And then they left, okay, while the House was still meeting. They tried to jam us. And then obviously the House Republicans didn't want to take that bill.
So I end up just feeling a little bit bad for this congressman. Like, why was he harassed, photographed, blasted over TMZ, and then highlighted in this manner for not doing anything wrong? I don't know. It just seems to me like that's not the right target, and that what seems like a promising exploration into political terrain and their sleuthing skills could also become kind of like a witch hunty harassment campaign if they're not careful. And they should probably do a little bit more, not just like verifying, is this photo real? Is this photo correct? But also like, is there actually a story here? I guess I'm not too familiar with TMZ, and maybe like they just don't care, and anything that will get clicks, they just want to publish. But to me, I ended up feeling bad for this congressman and being put through the ringer like this. And just the comments on all these posts about him from TMZ are just filled with people hating on him. And I just don't understand. Do people not have that like literacy to think a little bit about it and be like, wait, so what exactly is the reporting here? What conclusion should I draw from it? They're just like, no, bad. All government bad. Like, I say that as somebody who's a huge government critic and thinks most of these people are terrible at their jobs and embarrassing. But at the same time, like, you have to apply a little bit of fairness to them, even them. So listen, I hope TMZ uses their unique skill set for good, but I can't say that I'm particularly impressed with how they did this time around. Up next, guys, we're going to check in with Fox News, which is, of course, the #1 cable news network in the country. But it's also, in some ways, genuinely baffling to me. Like the personalities they choose to uplift and promote, how people find some of this stuff at all insightful or entertaining. There's lots of great personalities and analysts on there who I have personal relationships with and a lot of respect for. Then there's others, like Jesse Waters, one of the co-hosts of The Five, and I actually like The Five. I think it's one of the more interesting shows on cable news because they actually have the clash of perspectives, right? They've got Jessica Tarlov arguing with actual, Republicans, and she's presenting a Democratic point of view. But Jesse Waters, I mean, I understand there's some people on Fox that are just pure entertainers, right? And are supposed to be comedians and such, but he's like also supposed to be a serious news anchor, and yet is either trolling or not, or is trying to be funny, but then it's not at all funny. Like, I just missed the funny part. But just because he's like MAGA or whatever, people pretend that it's funny. That's what's strange to me. So I'm going to show you a clip of Jesse Waters. But it's important to note the context here, that this was shared by all the MAGA slop accounts with like hilarious ! And then the quote from Jesse Waters. Like, they just immediately are promoting this as if it's funny. And now we're going to watch the clip, and you let me know when you hear the funny part, because I just missed it. Let's listen.
Hey, Jesse, is it Hillary's time to shine?
Well, Nancy says there will not be a female president in her lifetime. And I say, thank God. I hope there's not a female president in my lifetime.
Why would you say that?
You know what many people are saying, Jessica? Many people are saying, do women have the...
You are just jumping off a cliff just because you're bored.
Emotional maturity to be
You are
president.
just bored.
Many people are saying, do they have the personal contacts in the business world to manage the economy? Many people are saying, Greg, do women have the respect of the generals?
Who said that?
Many people are saying women don't have the sense of humor to be president. I've heard that from a lot of people. None of those things I believe, but I believe Gavin Newsom could be the first woman president. Because when I hear him talk, he sounds like a woman. The kind of emotional instability, you don't know whether he's having a midlife crisis, an identity crisis, a crisis of confidence. I read the book, and it's great. And he's got so much potential with his athleticism, his hair. He's a genuinely nice guy. But the only reason he's running for president is to prove his worth to his father and to get back at all the bullies who beat the crap out of him in middle school. Now, I'm saying don't run for president, run to see a psychiatrist instead.
So, I don't know, like, am I supposed to laugh? Because there's two ways to interpret this clip. One is to take the things that Jesse Waters is saying seriously, in which case they would just be like ridiculously absurd and offensive. What do you mean a female should never be president? They're too emotional. Yeah, because Donald Trump is really just kind of a fountain of emotional stability. Oh, they could never have the respect of the generals. Yeah, the generals would never respect a woman who served for decades. Like, what are you talking about? Sure they would. Like, that's just not true as compared to people who never served and happen to be men. I just don't believe that. And I don't want to like clutch pearls by what he's saying because I don't think it's serious, really. But then it's like, what's the point of it? Because it's not like funny. I don't know. Do boomers find this funny? This is like one of the number one news programs on the number one cable news network in America. And they're just like having this guy rant in a cringeworthy way about how emotional women are and how one should never be president. And you're left with like wondering who this is for. Like, what is the point of this? How does anyone find this at all entertaining or insightful? I would so much rather have a serious MAGA conservative commentator or analyst like a Brit Hume or something, or I guess he's not quite MAGA, but like I know he's in Texas, so he can't do this, but like a Will Cain, somebody in that chair who's actually going to advocate for beliefs and talk about the news and be a serious person. And yet they pay people like this just millions of dollars for what? Because it's not even like they're jesters and they're funny. I didn't see, I genuinely find Jesse Waters to be one of the most boring and vapid people in all of the mainstream media, or I guess in this case, the conservative media. Like, I would actually prefer Joy Reid to Jesse Waters at this point, because at least that bitch is entertaining. At least she's going to say something surprising. She's going to say some crazy shit that's actually like messy enough to be entertaining and surprising. With Jesse Waters, I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't do actual serious commentary or analysis. And then he's not funny or entertaining, at least to me. I guess some people find this slop. Like, what are people like this going to do when there's no more 80-year-olds who find this content amusing? And I don't know. I mean, the country's literally at war. And if I had a perch at one of these places, which will never happen, but like the Five, I just wouldn't. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with like some entertaining or some, like just unserious content as well, mixing it in with your coverage of other stuff. But it's like, at least try to, like, just if you're gonna be edgy in a way that actually hits at some truth or goes into like forbidden territory, but just like this women, dumb, emotional, ha ha ha. Like, I don't know. I find this to be so boorish and lame, and I just don't understand. Like, also, why are all these accounts just eating it up and being like, hilarious? I don't know. That's just what they do, I guess. They just recycle slop all day. But they probably get paid Elon bucks out to Malaysia or wherever they're from. But I find that to be so cringe. I find all of it to be cringe. And I feel like this kind of thing really there's a very finite audience for it. And the way of the future in the online media is not going to be this, personally. At least that's my suspicion. But I don't know. If any of you guys are Jesse Waters fans in the comments, let me know. Because this is just like one clip of so many where he's like this, where he does this thing that maybe it's supposed to be a bit, but it's like if you're a primetime host on one of the cable news, the biggest cable news show channel in the country, maybe like bits are probably not the thing to build your brand and career around. And if you are, then like maybe they should be a little funny or a little unique and not just boorish and like 12-year-old boy humor. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed and do consider becoming a channel member to support my independent perspective. I criticize when I criticize the media, I criticize insane woke journalists, but I also criticize conservative media as well. So I do need support from viewers like you at the join button or the link in the description. Also, I'm going to round out today's show by reading a few comments from members. So if you do want to become a member, maybe I will read your comment if I start doing this more regularly. Anyway, these comments are about the Candace Owens episode we did, where we talked about her latest deranged advocacy trying to get Charlie Kirk's alleged killer acquitted of all charges, despite the fact there's a lot of evidence against him, actually. Somebody wrote, because I talked about her sponsors and how she put 5 sponsors in that episode, and each one low-end estimate like $50K. So she's getting $250,000 potentially in sponsorship, according to Fortune, for just this one episode. And somebody wrote, people like you are the ones that should be getting all the sponsors and also the support. Life is unfair, huh? I really appreciate this sentiment and this warmed my heart, but also like, do not feel bad for me. I'm doing just fine. And so many people have such more difficult jobs than me. And like, I'm not rolling in the dough or getting all these sponsors because I just don't get enough views. I have more than enough views to sustain myself and my business, but not like the stratosphere that these people are in. But also, I'm doing just fine. I appreciate the support from you guys, but like, it's hardly a woe is me situation. And then also, I'm not sure I would be willing to do a lot of the sponsorships that some of these people do, if that makes sense. Anyway, someone else writes, someone take Candace's phone away. This has gone far enough. You know, I really thought that after like the first 10 fiascos or like humiliating mistakes or things that maybe like her husband or somebody would have intervened and been like, hey, we got to stop this. I hope that if I ever lose my mind like this, that like my partner takes away my phone and my camera and is like, let's have a timeout or let's have a talk. Let's bring in the family for an intervention. Somebody else says, Candace not believing he's guilty means he's most likely guilty. At this point, she is getting the reputation as a chronic liar. You know, it's interesting. I agree with your sentiment, but at the same time, I actually don't believe Candace is like a liar in that I don't think she knowingly lies and is just putting on a show. I think she's like genuinely lost touch with reality and is crazy, like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and that she believes her own psychosis. I do believe that. That's my, obviously I can't get inside her head, so I don't know, but that's my hunch at least. Somebody else says, it's good for everyone that the defense exhausts every possible argument. If they don't, that can raise another avenue for Robinson to appeal, arguing he had improper counsel. I agree, and that's why I said, even though I think the like defense attorney spin on the ATF report, ballistics analysis, not matching when it was actually inconclusive. I think the spin is like pretty misleading and doesn't really actually prove his innocence at all, given all the other evidence. But they're just doing their job as defense attorneys, and I'm never gonna like be part of that. You even see this sometimes from like Republican attack ads that like, I think they did this against Hillary Clinton where they're like, she represented as a lawyer this criminal, this horrific. And I'm like, I'm not mad about that. Someone has to do that. And that doesn't mean you support their crimes, just being their defense attorney. You're like fulfilling an important role in the rule of law and in the criminal justice system. And I don't think that's a fair reason to attack someone, as much as I think Hillary Clinton sucks in so many other ways, and others like her who have done that role in the past. Anyway, somebody else comments, didn't know Brad was a sci-fi fan. Greatest author, Asimov. Greatest series, Dune, Original 6. My favorite overall novel, 1984. You know, that's fascinating. I actually read the first Dune book, and I didn't like it. It was just too like mystical, and the actually processing like the information, there were so many I don't know, mystical asides and like religious chants and all this stuff. It was a bit too much for me. My favorite sci-fi, and I guess it's not quite sci-fi, it's more like fantasy, but it's similar in some ways, is Mistborn. I'm a big Brandon Sanderson fan, if there's any other readers out there who like that. But I like a lot of different sci-fi books, a lot of different fiction books. Maybe if I ever actually design a background for this set rather than just the blank wall or the striped wall or whatever that I know people hate, then I'll actually put some books up, some of my favorite books on a bookshelf. Let me know if that would interest you guys. And we'll leave it there. Do join as a member if you want me to consider reading your comment. Not promising I'm going to read them all or even keep doing this, but you guys let me know what you think. Anyway, guys, that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will talk again real soon.